Hello everyone, I'm Anthony Chow. Today is the 14th of June 2024 and I'm here with Mr. Fred Khan, solicitor. Hello Fred. First of all, may I thank you for giving me the honor of interviewing you today.
The pleasure's mine.
Thank you. Fred, I've known you for, I don't know whether you know that, for over 35 years already. And I must say that the longer I know you, the less I know about you. The reason why I say that is not until recently when I got hold of your CV, I realized that you have achieved so much. Not only that you are a very successful practitioner, but the fact that you've been able to actually apply your legal skills in a very diverse fashion for the betterment of the legal profession is absolutely quite amazing. You first qualified as a lawyer in Canada in 1969. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
And then you, if I may say, returned to Hong Kong in 1978 to start practicing law here. And I believe in the early 80s, you established your own firm, Fred Khan & Co. And you've been the senior partner ever since until now. And of course, that's an extremely long time. In the course of all that, you have, of course, contributed a lot to the legal profession. And the fact that you were admitted as to the Roll of Honor of the Hong Kong Law Society is really a testament of your immense contribution to the legal profession. Okay? Now, you therefore carry in you a great deal of history and an immense amount of experience. And today I would like to draw on your experience and your wisdom for the benefit of the future generation of lawyers. First of all, the first thing I'd like to ask you is that I understand that you went to Canada to further your education during your formative years. And there you stayed for quite a number of years. But I also understand that you have very strong connections with Macau. So to start off with, I would like to really think that where were you born and bred, or where do you consider yourself born and bred?
I was born in Macau, and I lived in Macau until 1953, when I came to Hong Kong to further my studies.
You were born in Macau.
I was born in Macau, and I had my primary school education in Macau. And in 1949, a number of Jesuits were detained in mainland China.
I see.
And the Jesuit order went to see Mr. Ho Yin to ask him to intervene to rescue.
Of course, Ho Yin was an extremely prominent figure both in Hong Kong and Macau then.
The father of the first Macau chief executive.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
And Mr. Ho was successful. My father, we knew that, and asked Mr. Ho to give me a recommendation letter to YN. YN, as you know, is a Jesuit college, and I remember clearly. I remember taking the letter recommendation to see Father Grogan, and Father Grogan said, "Young man, do you know how difficult it is to enter YN? You know, parents would have to stay overnight to get the application form. The boys have to write exam and sometimes interview. But you don't need to do anything. Tell me what class you want to enter."
Obviously, you were very bright to start off with.
I don't know. No.
Nothing comes from nothing, that, I'm sure you know the saying. So you must have been sort of a very bright boy in order to be able to receive that sort of treatment. Not me, though. But anyway, you then went to Canada, and I believe to start off with, you aspire to be, from conversation with you previously, you aspire to be a rocket scientist, because you went to study mechanical engineering university to start off with, and you actually graduated with one. But what caused you actually to switch over to law?
Well, as you know, in North America, law is a second degree. You cannot enter law school from high school, so you have to finish a university degree. In my case, I studied mechanical engineering, and my graduation thesis was on solar energy. Now, let's think back. That was in 1964 when I graduated, and my thesis was on solar energy. Is on the solar furnace.
Wow, you were very advanced already.
Well,
solar was something.
Those days, who cared?
Beyond imagination, using solar energy.
Yeah. So when I graduated, when about to graduate, I applied to McGill University to continue on my studies to become get a master's degree in engineering and maybe a PhD in solar energy. And McGill is the only university that has a program on solar energy. And as you know, Canada in wintertime there's no sun. So the research center is in Barbados. And at the same time, my final year in engineering, I was very active in extracurricular activities, and I was the president of the International Student Council, and so forth. And as a result, I got the gold key from the University of Toronto. And the dean, there was there's no dean of men, but equivalent to a dean of men, suggested I should study law. And I said, well, the law is interesting because but it's very difficult to enter University of Toronto Law School. But anyway, I applied. I got accepted, and being the only male descendant of my clan that graduated from a decent university. My father wrote to me and said, well, son, I give you a round-the-world plane ticket as a reward, and on the condition you write a travelogue in Chinese. I said, great. So I took my time getting back to Hong Kong. Meanwhile, 2 letters arrived. One from University of Toronto accepting me in the law school, the other from McGill University accepting me to Barbados campus. Barbados, where their research center is, because there's lots of sun, see. So my father opened the letters as usual, as any Chinese father would, and look at it, law school, well, okay. The other one, what was that? Solar, what was that? They asked around. And he didn't know where Barbados was. And finally, his smart aleck spoke to my father and said, Mr. Can, that's the place. They do the calypso. So the next morning, next day, when I arrived in Hong Kong, my father took me to a steakhouse in Wan Chai, and he asked me the question, son, do you do the calypso? Well, I had to be honest. I said, yes, I do. Hey, don't fool around. You go to law school.
Oh, so in a way, it's not entirely your own choice, but at the end of the day, I think it was a good choice for you.
Yes, well, I had doubts, actually. I had doubts about whether I did the right thing.
About, the law school, because my understanding is that at that particular time, the law school of University of Toronto was still at this sort of infant stage. Is that right?
No. It's no.
Or
It's
the
already-
fact that there were very few Chinese in the school.
That's correct.
Yeah.
There were 2 Chinese in
I
my
see.
class. I passed the first year. The other guy didn't. So as a result, I became the first
You were the
Chinese
first
to graduate.
Chinese?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I graduated. Yeah.
So that's already history in the making to start off with. And of course, since then, you made a lot of history and other things as well. That seems to be the story of your life, making history. But anyway, and then, if I remember correctly, then you started to make history by getting yourself involved pretty actively in the sort of Canadian Chinese community after your graduation.
Yes, I did.
What actually motivated you to sort of get yourself involved shortly after graduate as a student in the community?
I think it's the sense of being not necessarily being discriminated, but the sense of being seeking equality, and I think that's, and being the only lawyer. In actual fact, when I start to practice, only 4 Chinese lawyers in Toronto, and I felt that there is a need to pay back to the society.
I think it's the way to describing that. You already felt a sense of justice or injustice at the time, therefore, prompting you to perhaps see what you can do for
Yes,
the community.
indeed.
Is that one way of putting it?
Yeah, yes, it is. Perhaps I tell you a story. When I graduated from law school, I had to get a job to article. Without articleship, I could not qualify as a lawyer. So I had all my classmates graduate from the top law school in Canada, had no problem getting 2 or 3 jobs, and I couldn't get one. And finally, I got one from a small Jewish law firm. And the first day I went to work, I went to the men's washroom, and someone already written on the wall of the urinal, "Chink drinks here." So 67, those were the times. But I realized that we have to look at things in flux. Surely there was discrimination, but that is 1967. I ran for office in 1975. 1975 was only 8 years later. 8 years later, but when I ran for office, I didn't encounter any act of discrimination against me. In fact, the day election was called, the next day, there's a Globe Mail newspaper, which is a national newspaper, and under the mask, on the top left-hand corner, there was a picture that big of me. So if you know how to work the levers and how you would be able to get something out of it.
But yeah, talking about how difficult it was for Asian actually at the time to get traineeship now, because it was called articles of clerkship then. I really share. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I share your feeling, because I went through the same situation as well. In the early 70s, mid-70s probably, I was looking for articles as well and couldn't actually sort of come across any until after probably about 200 or 300 applications. Eventually, I was accepted as article clerk with a Jewish firm.
Yeah.
And there was only
Jewish law firms. I mean,
Jewish
the
law
Jews
firms.
and Chinese were
yes.
very close. Yeah.
And so I went through the same sort of experience, and I know exactly how you feel. But then, of course, you progressed on to doing bigger things because understand you ran for
Ran for
election.
office, yes.
You ran for office in Toronto. I mean, again, what led you to do that?
The sense of injustice, basically, and trying to seek equality. Because in 1970, I think in 1974, the president of the Canadian Medical Association, a woman by the name of Dr. Betty Stevenson, said to the press, actually, to the media, that there were too many Chinese students in Canadian medical schools. Wow,
Really?
gee, I mean, it was the Chinese community, particularly the Chinese medical community, were up in arms. I mean, how could we be? We are all Canadians, either we're Canadian immigrants or Canadian citizens. And why should we not be able to go into medical schools as others? And they decided to organize. And I, being one of the most outspoken of the 4 Chinese lawyers, so I was chosen to chair the first meeting of the doctors to plan what to do. So I chaired the meeting, and the conclusion was that we should not form a Chinese-Canadian medical association because it would be seen as a splinter group. That would not be good. So we progressed it to form the Federation of Chinese-Canadian Professionals. So I became the first president of the federation. And then at that time, the Canadian government came up with a green paper on immigration and invite various ethnic communities to
Did you find time to practice with all that going on?
Well, you make time, Anthony, you have to make time. You have priorities. I mean, you have to do things, you have to do it. And so I was the co-chairman of the first Chinese-Canadian National Conference being held in Vancouver. So all delegations from all major cities in Canada were represented at that convention, which is quite a thing, actually, to think back. And one thing led to another, and I sought to run for political office. And I ran in a riding called St. Andrew St. Patrick, which is huge, actually, huge riding.
What do you mean by huge riding?
Area-wise, I would say Wan Chai and Wan Chai, Happy Valley, and Causeway Bay combined.
Wow,
that's a huge,
not small.
Big riding. I had 2 campaign offices.
But by then you must have been sort of fairly well settled into Canada, and by then you must have been married and started a family. But then what then sort of prompted you to come back to Hong Kong?
When I ran for office,
yeah,
okay, I lost. And Financial Times interviewed me and asked me whether I would run again. I said I would never run again. And then my friend,
why is that?
I didn't want to fail again,
Knowing you, I believe you.
I don't want to fail again. It's not my control, you see.
Yeah.
And then my friend who was an Chinese, who is an alderman at City Hall, he called me up and said, "Fred, in politics, you never say never. You always leave yourself a little leeway in case something happens." So anyways, in 1981, the firm Kenmark and Poon in Toronto set up a law firm in Hong Kong, a branch, basically not a branch, but a Hong Kong law firm. It's the smallest in Hong Kong. And we did immigration and investment. And one day, a couple came to see me, wanting to emigrate to Canada. And the man wearing jeans and running shoes, and the woman with pigtails and all that. And at the end of the interview, I said, "Well, look, it's quite costly to qualify to emigrate to Canada. Well, you have to have 300,000 Canadian dollars. Do you have that?" The man look at the woman look at the man, and then the man nod his head and say, "Mr. Ken, I think we have." And later on, of course, I found out that they're one of the richest couple in Hong Kong. Duck Fai, Teddy Wang.
I think everybody is
Teddy Wang. So
quite
when I
familiar with that name.
Teddy Wang and Nina
Wang.
Wang.
That household name.
Teddy Wang and Nina Wang.
Yeah,
and then,
yes.
Okay. And then when I realized that, I said, "Look, there's no problem. You emigrated to Canada because all the wealth you have. But do you know that if you go to Canada, you're subject to worldwide tax? Then you have to do a lot of structure, a lot of trust that have to be created. You have to give away a lot of your freedom and all that. Are you ready for it? And besides, have you ever been to Canada?" And they said, "No, we never been." "Well, why don't you go and take a look and see whether you like it or not? If you like it, then okay, we make the application." And then Nina said to me and said, "Mr. Ken, would you be returning to Toronto for Chinese New Year?" I said, "Yes, I would. So how about if we come?" I said, "Okay, fine." But anyway, they came. My wife took them around. We had a good time and showed them around the city. And I remember at the end of the trip, Nina said to me, I said, "Mr. Ken, you're qualified to practice in Hong Kong, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." "How about if China can give you some work?" I remember what my friend said. Always leave the door open. I never intended to come to Hong Kong to practice, basically. And I said, "Well, I will consider it." And then 2 months later, my manager, who is my cousin in Hong Kong, called me up. He said, "Cousin, Fred, 表哥，富貴逼人來啊, fortune's knocking on your door."
So you were making an offer that you couldn't refuse, to put it bluntly.
That was it. I mean, and then my wife was an interior designer. She worked for Eaton's, which is the largest department store in Canada.
True.
And she was in charge of the catalog. And she was not happy with her work because if the sales were good, everyone never give him the compliment. But the sales weren't good, then it's her fault. The catalog, you see. And so I talked to her and said, "Well, fine, we go." So we came. That's 1984.
That's very brave of you. But then everything actually proved, or the decision proved to be a right one at the end of the day. Wouldn't you say so?
It was actually very brave because 10 years later, we had the whole firm. We went to Thailand, and the firm's manager asked me, "What gift should we give you, Mr. Ken?" I said, "Give me a T-shirt with the word 勇 in front and 勇 at the back." Basically, you're quite correct.
So you took the whole firm to Thailand.
Those days we had over 100 people.
Yeah. Okay, you're setting a very bad example now. Don't let my staff know that. Because they may be making the same demand and I can't afford it.
We went there. We went to Thailand. The firm went to Korea. We went to Vietnam. Those were good days, Anthony. You know that.
I know that.
With the golden era of
the golden year
for solicitors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's because it was so good that a lot of lawyers were actually prepared to repay the legal profession, so to speak, by devoting some time to the running of the law society, to plow back in the legal profession. And I was sort of in a similar situation, although I didn't quite do it voluntarily, but I was called upon. But because the economic situation was such that I could afford to give up some of my time, and hence in 1994, I was drafted into the Law Society, not knowing exactly what to expect. But then a few years down the road, in 1997, I was elected the president of Law Society. And I was confronted with a question, believe it or not, concerning you. Whether in fact the council should actually then take on a new candidate, a very promising candidate called Mr. Frank Kan. I said, I know this guy because he used to come to my office to do affidavits. You remember that? Do you remember that?
I know
this is the first time I met you.
I know,
right?
I know. We were in the same building.
We were in the same building. Oh, you remember that? Okay.
Well, I remember you have quite a setup. You had to go through a door, and then the office appeared to be two. Anyways, it's not.
I can't remember that. So if my office did impress you, thank you. But anyway, so that really was the first time that I sort of start to really get to know you. Yeah. And of course, over the years, you've been a really big help to the Law Society. But before I get on to that, I have something to thank you because one or 2 years after that, I don't know whether you remember that, you said to me, Anthony Chow, you are very boring because you only sort of...
only two, you talk, there are only two topics of conversation. One is horses, the other one your son's education. I remember that.
No, and the law as well. The law society. No. 3. So, and you tried to distract me from the Law Society, from the topics of conversation about my son and horses. And you suggested to me, you said, Anthony Chow, you should be actually socializing more with your contemporaries in the Law Society, namely the council members.
Yes, yes.
And I said, how do I do that? And you said, golf.
Golf, yeah.
I said,
yeah.
I never touched a golf club in my life. You said, go and learn. So the fact that I can play golf today is it's all due to you. So thank you. But sort of joking aside, that part of it actually, in a way, created a legacy. Because from the playing of golf, I don't know whether you remember, you managed to get me to draw together with you, a bunch of council members. And we were able to really work together on a lot of council issues, like a family. And the reason why I said a legacy is because the majority of those people are still around, and they have then sort of been gelled together since then to form a sort of like a star chamber for the legal profession.
A fraternity.
I like to exaggerate it a little bit. A star chamber.
Star chamber
for the future generation, and of course you're still the core member of that group known as the CPKY, which up to today, we only have you to thank. But that's the legacy. But I believe you have left more than just one legacy, for the profession. Because since you took up membership on the council, you have really done a lot for the legal profession. You set on so many countless number of committees, but I'd like to sort of highlight a few. The one which I believe will also leave, an eternal legacy is the historical archive.
Working Party on Historical Archive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it is sort of a reflection of the fact that you are very much into history as well. Because, in the course of the last 20 or 30 years, you always like to recall history for you to look ahead, which is very important. And you say, I remember that it's quite sad that to allow the legal profession to go on without its history being recorded.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And therefore you suggested the forming of committees to do certain things. Tell me about those committees. Now, I can recall you've done a book.
I think I started, as you know, as Christopher Chan asked you to be my campaign manager for my election to council, and you were successful, and I became council member. And my first task was being the chairman of the annual dinner. I don't know if you remember that. There used to be an annual dinner for the Law Society.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I was chair, and I even recruit someone to come from
because you were
Philippines
the
to come
chair,
and sing.
I went back to the firm and asked the firm to buy a table.
Yes, that's
I remember that.
That's exactly what it was. And I did it and so forth, and I thought I was done a very good job, and I was sort of
it's not to
petting
say,
myself.
It's not to you to say you've done a good job. It's up to me.
Quite
but
right.
You did an extremely good job.
No. That's what I thought. My ego told me. So I sort of congratulated myself in the next council meeting, and I remember Christopher said something. He said, "Fred, it's not your work. It's all of us going out and getting tables, So I decided then, if that's the case, why bother? Because so much effort into selling tables, and so I decided that maybe we
you
should
remember. I remember extremely well because I got a very good table.
Yeah.
The good table in the sense that because it was right next to the chairman of the organizing committee. That was you.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there right next to you. You were actually talking about your vision and all that.
Yeah. But anyways. Yeah. So I said there's no sense. So there's no more. We have not had an annual dinner ever since. The other one is I remember is the convention, the annual convention, the Law Society annual convention. We had it in 2000 year 2000. 2000.
You're talking about the centenary one.
No. It's a Law Society annual conference. Okay, I thought that it would be a good idea that the Law Society should have annual conference and so forth and so forth. The first one was very successful. I mean, I remember getting someone, we pay someone to come be an inspirational speaker and then really build it up.
It's coming back to me now.
Yeah,
it's coming back to me, yes.
It was very successful. And then the next one, we the following year, because annual convention, the next year, we had a tough time. We had a tough time getting people calling and getting people to come and so forth, and have CPD points and all of that. And once again, my conclusion is there's no sense to do it. If you have every year you do it, you have to phone up people and cajoling people and so forth to come. What's the sense? I mean, so I stopped that. So I stopped the annual convention. And the other thing I remember very well, I was the chair of the Law Society Extending Committee on External Affairs. When I was chair, the jurisdiction of the of the External Affairs Committee, not only external affairs but also member affairs. I say that's not right. I mean, basically, naturally you have to have a committee look after external affairs, meaning affairs of, promotional and goodwill and all that. But how can you have members' affairs being part of external affairs? So I decided to sever the two. So that's now we have the member service committee, member service.
Which is, of course, since become a standing committee.
Yes.
Which is absolutely flourishing.
Yes, and I was the first chair of the member benefits committee. Mm-hmm. Member benefits committee. We call it 着數委員會, giving benefits to the law society, being members of the law society. I remember Angela Lee Bakers. Yeah. He one day she came to me. He said, Mr. Ken, no, our committee, we have to do something for our lady members. I said, what can we do? He said, well, many of our female members have, because of their investment in the time and all that in their work and profession, they have not been able to find a mate.
I see.
I said, well, that's not the job. That's not our job. He said, well, we have to do something for them. So you know what we did? We purposely held a party in our clubhouse with champagne, strawberry, chocolates.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay, and
I remember that.
Dim lighting, and purposely 2 weeks before Valentine's Day. Okay, hopefully there would be some romance would come forward, And that's one of the things I stopped continuing, because I discover that most of the men attending were already married.
I remember making the remark, now that you mentioned this, I said, Fred seems to be everywhere. He's an author of committee, and now he's decided to be a matchmaker.
Yep, quite true. And consequently, so it was not successful. And the matter came
I'm
back.
so glad it was not successful. You can sort of come and concentrate, on committee matters.
Yeah, but anyways, so the matter come back to the member benefits committee, and then we have to say, well, we have to decide what to do. And I said, well, the only way is, we have the circulars every week. We have the circulars, and people can advertise, circulars. Why don't we choose 2 prominent dating service companies and give them free advertising? So we chose 2. And I said, well, if they have business, and 1 year later, 1 year later they will continue, then we might have an income from them, you see. They didn't. After 1 year, they didn't repeat advertising, so I suppose that was not too successful.
But of course, you were on the council from 1997 to 2002.
Three, then two.
Yeah.
5 years.
And of course, you continue to sit on many of the committees until now. But during the time when you were a councilman, can you recall what you would regard as the most burning issues faced by the legal profession then or faced by the Council of Law Society that caused you to, say, lose some sleep? Can you recall any burning issue? Or were times so good that you just sailed through without remembering any burning issue?
I think burning issues per se could be many. I mean, basically in 1997, after 97, good years later, couple of years later, then there's a downturn in the economy. Everyone's trying to make a living. But I thought the burning issue for the Law Society is to reach out to the community, that we have always failed to reach out. And that's the reason why we had the Teen Talk. That's the whole reason.
Tell us more about it. Yeah.
The Teen Talk. And the Teen Talk was, reaching out to what community? Reaching out. So it's a choice between reaching out to the young or reaching out to the old. Of course, you have to make a decision between the two. Assume if you were to make a decision, you would have chosen the young one because they have a longer life, and they, whatever you invest in them would have a longer benefit. And so we decided to do a program for the students. And at that time, I was very concerned with the high suicidal rate among the young. So we organized this Teen Talk for high school students, and we found a place in Chek Lap Kok. What's the name of the convention center?
Next to the airport.
Yeah. We had that. 1,500 high school students were there. We have tables for 10. We have many tables, and then we have a lawyer or a trainee to be the facilitator, and then we have discussions on the platform, and then in turn the discussion among the small groups, and then they would go up to the platform to air their views, and it was very successful, very successful. My whole idea of doing this came in the early 1980s when my friend Jack Soul was the CEO of the bank, San Hong Kay Bank, and he had very little to work. And he said one day, Fred, well, we have a dining room up on the top. Why don't you give me some names to invite people to come, and influential people. They would make an impact in Hong Kong society. And I named three. One of them is Sito Wah. And Sito Wah, I remember exactly what he said. And he said, we had a democracy camp every summer, and we would choose top students to go. And we have 50 every year, but if you think about it, 10 years later, we have 500. So that's the way to go. So what I had in mind at that time in doing the Teen Talk is not just providing a platform for the students to go and air their views and meeting other people and discuss. It's for us to pick the top students from the group, and then do what Sitowa was doing and train them further in leadership skills and keep in contact with them, and we can have a law society after 10 years, if we keep on doing it, would be very influential. If we pick 100 per year, 10 years be 1,000.
Well,
you see?
yes.
But that was the idea. That was the idea.
The rest is history, because needless to say, now Teen Talk has become one of the most successful projects, ever launched by the Law Society, and it's still going strong. Not only is it, successful in engaging the community, but also in actually sort of opening up the minds of teenagers through the project. We can think about social issues, appreciate, what's going on in the society. And once again, I don't know whether anybody has actually commended you on that. If nobody's done that, I would like to take this opportunity of commending you on behalf of the legal profession on this particular project.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Well, thank you very much.
No. I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's
that.
quite successful, but naturally, I mean, as I said before, I'm a dreamer. I'm basically a dreamer. I have dreams, but it's only a dream unless other people come with me and we do things together.
You reminds me of a song. I always quote songs. You're a dreamer, but it's also important that you should be a beautiful dreamer. A beautiful dreamer is a dreamer that when he wakes up, all the worries in the world are gone, and people are much better to be in a better world.
Well,
you're a beautiful dreamer.
I dream a beautiful dream. I mean, Teen Talk was a beautiful dream, and the success of today is not because of me. Well, maybe I have a little part of it, but it's successive chairman of Teen Talk, and they have been able to advance the program further and further, and it'd be great to see how it goes.
I'd like to jump from Council Law Society and committee to other things as well, because there's so many things I can talk about concerning you. But now let's go on to the practice of law. You've been practicing now since the early 80s?
55 years, 1969. Now it's 55 years.
Of course, in the course of all that, you face a number of challenges, and by that I mean not just you, but the legal profession.
Yes.
We went through the Asian economic downturn in 1998. That was then, we thought everything is going to be rosy forever, but then of course came SARS in 2003, and another 6 or 7 years down the road, we were hit by the global financial tsunami in 2008. And of course recently, with COVID, with the, geopolitics going on and all that, that's really, okay. I wonder when in fact you can render some advice to the younger generation. How did you manage to overcome all these challenges so successfully?
I won't say I'm very successful. I mean, we survive, particularly in the past.
All right. Even some people, some of our law firms didn't survive.
Yeah.
How did you get to be so resilient? I think that's the most important point. to be able to survive. You're still going strong. Your firm's going strong. I won't ask, but when you're going to retire, looks as though you will never retire. But anyway.
Well, you won't retire as well.
No. I will. I will eventually.
I think never before that the legal practice is facing such big challenges. Before, we didn't need to worry about geopolitical conflicts and all that. Hong Kong always have a golden role to play in bridging the East and the West. But now with the I would say not, I won't use the word war, but the anti-China narrative mounted elsewhere, Hong Kong is being squeezed.
I know. What are your secrets of remaining so resilient?
Well, well,
trade secrets, please.
There's no trade secret except that you have to, you have to maintain basically for the law firm, the most important thing is to maintain morale. You have to have a team, the team prepared to slug it out.
With you more,
it out.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I pride myself is that we have a very small attrition rate. Recently, I did a study and I did a survey, and the average age, working age people work in the firm, in the firm was 15 years. People have been working 15 years in the firm. But when you do the survey, we count those who just joined and those who have been there day one, like me. So you average out is 15 years. So a lot of people staying. I think that's the most important thing. Is
totally agree.
That
I always said the most, of course, for a law firm, the most precious thing are the clients, but to have the clients, you need a very stable and also faithful team of staff. I think that is very, very, very important.
I think that's essential. There are firms, obviously, this is very Chinese thinking, But for big firms, like American firms, when the business is not good, you're fired. But we generally don't do that. And,
I always tell my staff, I used to tell them that we're always one step behind. When really big firms are firing, we will try not. We will not do that. But you have the barriers by perhaps that year we will not be adjusting the salary in order to actually weather the storm together. And when everybody is reducing the salary, we'll try to also keep the salary and not, and perhaps reduce the salary altogether so that nobody will lose a job. So I think it's very important to, as you say, maintain the morale. And therefore gain the trust and faith in the firm. I think that is the most valuable asset, the staff.
Yes.
The staff.
And naturally, as time goes on, we have to learn new skills and so forth. Like the president's letter that came out yesterday on AI and
I was going exactly to go on to the next questions apart from the secret of that, because last 20 years or 30 years, law firms have also faced with another challenge, which is about IT, and now we have to everybody is worrying about the impact of AI
yes.
on the legal profession and how we're going to deal with it. How do you see AI is going to do you think AI, as some lawyers predict, was going to wipe out the legal profession, or it will definitely have the impact, but how do you see the impact's going to be? I don't hopefully not as drastic as wiping out, as they put it. What do you think, Ken?
I think AI will have its own limitation. because obviously AI would be able to gather more materials and analyze materials quicker than the human mind.
Yes.
I mean, if that's what the lawyer does, and then obviously AI will replace it. But to think out of the box, that's the magic of a successful lawyer or whatever, is to be able to think out of the box. I don't think that AI will be able to do that, because you're totally moving yourself from one platform to another. And why AI would be able to do well in one platform, I think that's how you would be able, how we can survive, by being able to think out of the box, to think of new solutions.
I think the most important thing, first of all, is not to ignore it. The most important. A lot of people.
No. We have to accept it.
Yeah.
The problem facing Hong Kong law firms is this: most of the law firms in Hong Kong are small law firms. But if we really have to tackle AI, then we have to invest a lot of money into AI, and that's costly. The small firms cannot.
Yeah.
So what would they do? Now, before, I mean, we can always rely on conveyancing and all that, but if land titles were to come into place, then I expect the fees to go down. Wouldn't it?
Yes.
Would it? It would. And then what would lawyers be doing? You know?
I know what lawyers should be doing. If you're an example, to be an arbitrator, because people are saying that Hong Kong is becoming an important international arbitration center, not one of the leading ones. Would you agree with that? And also, would you agree that there'll be future in arbitration? You should be the one to be able to tell us that, because you've been a very successful arbitrator here. It says here you're a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, also the fellow of the Hong Kong Institute of Arbitrators, so on and so forth. International Arbitration Center, you're a member. I mean, the list just goes on.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, I think the good thing, the one thing I can talk about is that recently on 1st of March, I, as the chair of the organizing committee of the IPBA regional conference, one of the 4 topics we tackled was how to render international arbitration cheap and fast. I think that's what we have to move towards. Nowadays, arbitration
First of all, I mean, tell me, where is Hong Kong as an arbitration center? Are we, up there in the middle, or are we down there?
I think we are up. I think we're quite up there, high up there.
So which is good.
Which is good.
So there is a future there. Yeah.
There's a future there, but I think there's more to. I think we have to combine arbitration with mediation if possible, because I think mediation is the mechanism for resolving dispute.
That's good advice. Yes.
And perhaps there's a mixture of ARP-MED or MED-ARP, and somehow that can be achieved. Yes, arbitration is an alternative to court, to litigation, and the arbitrator has to look at the set of facts, the factual matrix, and apply legal knowledge to resolve it. So it's still a legal solution to the problem.
How did you sort of manage to get into arbitration in the first place? I used to be a litigator myself. I still call myself a litigator, although I've done one arbitration in my life before. But I found it very difficult to actually sort of get into that area without knowing how to get into. What
Well,
how did you actually manage to get into it? Because Anthony doesn't do arbitration. He only knows how to litigate. I mean, that was my difficulty. I was hoping that one day I can just be in arbitration, retire on arbitration and all that. But I found it very difficult. So how did you manage to do that?
Well, first of all, you have to qualify yourself. And
probably I was a bit too lazy to do that.
Yeah, you have to qualify and become a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. I mean, that's that's
most important thing.
That's a normal route.
Okay.
And then you qualify, but it's just like getting your LLB, your PCLL. I mean, you need to have that. So you become a fellow, and then you put your name with the HKIAC, and you graduate from small cases to big cases.
Yeah, I was always too busy to. You've sort of confirmed my thinking, but just that I never managed to sort of get myself to find the time to do that. So probably that is a very good piece of advice that perhaps those who would like to get into arbitration should do. I think that's very, very, very useful advice.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something else. A total departure from law. Although it is a departure from law, but it's something that you have also used very successfully in promoting law, or promoting the rule of law, sport. Everybody knows that you are a keen golfer. I don't think you deny that. Not only a keen golfer.
Not a good golfer, but a keen golfer.
No, I was going to say, obviously you're not Tiger Woods, but I would also put you as a very competent golfer, a very competitive golfer, a golfer that I would not like to play against.
For money,
especially for money, You, in that respect, you've also actually sort of done a lot for our members as well. You've organized a lot of matches. I don't even recall what you've done yet in order to promote law. Do you remember that? Tell us something about that.
Well, I think
idea.
Well, I've done many golf tournaments, but the most important to me is the cross-strait golf tournament, which is a tournament established by us, actually by me, in bringing the lawyers from Taiwan and mainland Hong Kong together, now plus Macau. And it was started at a time when Chen Shui-bian was president of Taiwan, and there was a break in communication between the mainland and Taiwan. So we did that, and it was quite successful. And that tournament now has become the largest lawyers' golf tournament in the world. And my ambition, starting this October, when we have this cross-strait golf tournament in Nanjing, I'm going to...
See, you will never retire. You're not even thinking of what you're going to do in the next few years.
No, I'm thinking of bringing into it an international element. Originally, I thought I would bring in 30 international players, but now it's just 10 players. But we started, and eventually we're successful. What I like to do is my dream is to have the Lawyers World Cup of Golf. Bringing lawyers from all over the world to come and play and really interacting and creating. And
you're sort of more ambitious than I thought, because I was going to say that you're going to sort of bring together the through golf, the entire the lawyers within the Greater Bay Area, of course. It looks as though you're looking beyond that and do it sort of for the So, you know,
I think
huh?
it's gone beyond the Greater Bay Area because already it's a big tournament. Just imagine the tournament with 200 players. We can't have the game in one golf course. We have two golf courses playing together. So it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's more popular. Hong Kong exception.
The way I see it, it's not just the sport. It's through the sport you manage actually to cement
Yes.
the relationship of lawyers together,
Yes.
and to bridge the gaps of communication that you mentioned just now, which is very important, because a greater understanding amongst themselves would obviously reduce, you know, the conflicts amongst lawyers. So again, in that respect, you know, you've underestimated what you have done, and I must sort of, you know, say that's most admirable.
Oh, thank you.
And don't give up on that.
No. I really want to push it, and like this October, I'm getting Guinness
Guinness World Record.
Guinness World Record to credit it as the largest.
Do you think you allow me to you know,
To come? Come.
Well, to play, because
Yeah.
obviously I'm not up to your standard.
No.
but if you sort of allow me
Anyone's is for Hong Kong. We
put
don't.
me in, you know, in a group whose standard is roughly mine. Okay.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, it's.
But talking about, you know, bringing people together, I remember that when I became the president, the first thing you did in order to bring a jurisdiction which is extremely close to us, but which hitherto has been actually quite detached from us. And I'm talking about Macau, because, you know, it's not until after the handover that we started to start to build, I should say, build up stronger ties with them. And once again, it was due to your effort. I remember when I became the president, there was a Macau conference, or you initiated something that would require the Law Society to go over, and I can't remember what it was. It was shortly before the handover of Macau back to China, and you took me over and suggested that I should represent Hong Kong, which I had no choice as the president. And then you told me the night before that I would be required to make a speech. And then, you know, I was traveling already the next morning to Macau, but you then told me that you won't be required to make the speech until the next evening, thinking that 24 hours was
Good enough.
enough for me to write a speech in front of an entire conference. And I don't even remember that. And you then very kindly said, I will let you have my house for the afternoon so that you can write your speech. Yeah. So I remember very courageously, I went to your place for the first time and I wrote the speech there. And sure enough, in the evening, I made a speech in front of, what's the name of Macau president then?
Neverland. People used to say Neto Valente.
Valente,
but
Dr. Valente.
Valente.
Valente, okay.
Net Valente.
Yeah. And he
praised you ever after.
Think you're right. I was trying to sort of tell you that up till now, I still remembered he said, Mr. Chow, that was a very good speech. I said, thank God I got away with it. So thanks to you again.
Yeah.
But joking apart, but you've done a lot there as well. You're putting so much effort in bringing the Macau lawyers together with the Hong Kong lawyers to penetrate into their community, because you over there I don't know whether you're still doing it, but you used to undertake some public service there.
Yeah, I was the.
Tell us something about.
I was on the law reform consultative conference. I think I was there. I was on the committee for close to 10 years. Yeah, until it was disbanded, and that was and while there I and Wang Hinfei, who is now the president of the Macau Law Association, that we together did a paper on the arbitration and mediation regime for Macau. So,
so you seem to be everywhere. That's the thing, you know. So, tell us where do you want to go from here? I mean, the reason why I asked you, let me ask a question. Do you have any plan of retirement?
no, I don't think I would. I mean,
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm thinking everybody in legal profession, notwithstanding the fact that you remain a competitor of mine, all right, or of law, but the fact is the fact that you don't plan to retire is also good for the legal profession, because, as I say, most of the time what you do now is really for the development and the betterment of the legal profession, and which we hope you will continue doing so until the end of time. I should say.
I will join hands with you, Anthony, to march towards that goal.
No, but admittedly, I don't have your energy.
Oh no. You've done much more than I would ever done.
No.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah.
But what do you think? The legal profession will hold in the future. How do you see the legal profession? So, because we talk about AI, and some people say AI is going to replace the legal profession, which personally I don't think so. But obviously, the legal profession will continue to evolve. And how do you think the legal profession will evolve, perhaps in terms of regulation, kind of practice issues, so on and so forth? How do you see it?
I always say that, as you know, my view on the legal profession is that we have this 金剛罩, that this, I don't know how to describe it in English, but it's that we have too many restrictions on our practice. The jurisdiction, the area of our practice is not getting larger.
Yeah.
It appears to me it's shrinking all the time. It's shrinking not because we are shrinking, it's because other people are encroaching, right? And unless we be able to release ourselves from that bondage, then the legal profession will getting smaller and smaller, and our role in society will be minimized. I think we have to look at how law would be practiced and how law firms should be run, and not just doing what we are doing now. We would be able. I remember very well this story. I was traveling, long distance travel. I can't remember where, but anyway, there was a guy sitting next to me, and I asked him what he was doing. He said that he was in how do you describe 精选 actuary, yeah, actually he was in actuary. He was in actuary, and I said, oh yeah, what insurance company do you work for? He said, no, I work for an accountancy firm, one of the big fours. So for example, now tax, for example, we don't do much tax work, but all the tax litigation are done by lawyers, right? There's no reason why we can't do tax. There are many areas that we should be able to get in, but for some reason, we have forsaken them or given it by default to others.
I entirely agree with you. On the one hand, I think we should try to break away from, this ring fence that is really stopping the legal profession from, how should I say, from keeping it from actually sort of developing in a way like the accountants, because the accountants have, apart from auditing or whatever, they become consulting of all sorts. They're able to sort of be consultants, advisors for commercial entities. But the problem, lawyers can't do that, I agree with you, is because we are bound always by the three principles, the independence of the legal profession, confidentiality, conflict of interest. Unless you can relax, these three rules, which they find very difficult, and because it is exactly these three rules which have actually made the legal profession stand out and get rid. So yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. How are you going to sort of come to a compromise?
Well, we have to. For example, we have to. I mean, we have to.
But this is really for. Not for us now, for the law society, to think as to how we can help our members by actually break away from this fence, and yet maintaining the sort of level of integrity that is expected of lawyers. I think
that the word is integrity. How do you maintain the integrity, and somehow we have to make the cake bigger. Unless there'll be more and more lawyers. Unless the cake is bigger, then we each one of us, we get less and less, and that's not good for the legal profession.
And Fred, ladies and gentlemen, actually Fred has got another name. Within the legal profession, he is affectionately known as Fred Gore. So Fred Gore, unfortunately, all good things must end. And as I said, I've been sort of very fortunate to be able to be your interviewer, which I never thought something like this would happen. But I think we have to wrap up now, and I really have to thank you for your precious time, for your insights into the legal profession, for allowing me to expose your path, and for also sort of allowing us to draw on your wisdom which I hope will benefit the future of the legal profession for many years more to come.
Yeah, I'm sure the legal profession will be getting
Thank you.
better and better,
Yes,
brighter and brighter.
Let's hope so.
Okay.
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 Thank you very much. Frego, in appreciation of your time today, may I give you a little souvenir for you to remember us by?
Thank
Here
you.
you are.
Thank you very much. Thank you.